First take back here with you. The 11-1 Chiefs tied for the NFL's best record with the Lions. However, the majority of their wins are by a single score, and 6 have been decided in the final play or two. Most recently, it was the last play that allowed the Chiefs to win as the Raiders botched the snap while in field goal range. And so here is Patrick Mahomes on those close calls.
I don't know if enjoy is the word for it, but I think it keeps you motivated, which I think can be a good thing in the end. I think sometimes I look back on the year we lost in the Super Bowl, and we were very dominant throughout the regular season, and it's just kind of like you get in this point where you start coasting because you're winning games, you're just kind of doing the normal thing. Whereas if you look at us last year, even though it didn't go the way we wanted to, it felt like we just continued to work every single week, and we knew we had to get better, and we didn't let the details slip, and we ended up playing our best football at the end of the year. And so that's the hope, is that with all these close finishes, we're getting wins, but it's keeping us hungry so that we can try to continue to get better as the season goes on.
So Patrick Mahomes twisting it on us all and telling us that this is actually good for the Chiefs to be winning games by just a narrow margin. Mina, do you think these close games are actually good for the Chiefs?
I do not. I think Patrick Mahomes is capable of finding motivation anywhere. It's part of what makes him elite, and I think that he would have it regardless of whether or not they're winning these close games. The fact that they are winning them and squeaking by is just indicative to me of the vulnerability of this team. First, we should say, historically, teams that have won, as many close games as they have, and I think if they win one more, they would join just 3 others in NFL history. Most recently, you remember that Vikings team from a few years ago that proved to be somewhat fraudulent in the playoffs. It is very unprecedented for a team to be squeaking by as much as they have and then to be excellent and go on a Super Bowl run. The other thing is, I look at this team and I just see a lot of reasons why they're barely squeaking by. It's not just fluky. They're a lot more flawed than they have been in recent years. Patrick mentioned the Bucs Super Bowl loss, and I look at this offensive line and I have similar concerns to what we saw play out there, particularly at the tackle position. And then defensively, I think we've seen some cracks emerge in recent weeks in that secondary, insufficient pass rush. All of this is to say, the record and the performance we're seeing close games, this is who the Chiefs are, you guys, right? The reason why they are playing such close games is that they're a flawed team, and they have, Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL, and so I'm not betting against him entirely. I just don't have a ton of confidence in this team, and I think those scores reflect that.
Well, yeah, Mina, no argument that the Chiefs are a flawed team, but so are the other 31 in the NFL, right? I mean, Mike Tomlin said every team has warts in a salary cap sport, and the Chiefs are no different. But I don't look at the Chiefs winning a lot of one-score games as the canary in the coal mine. I look at it as a virtue. We didn't think it was a bad sign for the 2003-2004 New England Patriots when they won 13 consecutive one-score games. We didn't look at it as a warning sign that they weren't going to be capable of competing and winning a championship. I think the only point of difference is that we're talking about the Chiefs trying to do something that no other team has done in the Super Bowl era, which is three-peat. So from there, I can understand why there would be some skepticism, especially when you saw what happened at the end of the Raiders game and the call. There were a lot of debates about whether or not that should be a false start or whatever you have you. But here's the deal. The Kansas City Chiefs start the season in the AFC Championship game. That's where they end up every single year. Patrick Mahomes has been the starting quarterback. So, I mean, that's where they're starting. We thought last year that the Kansas City Chiefs were in trouble when they lost Christmas Day to the Las Vegas Raiders, and then they didn't lose another game. So I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. They've got a lot of moving parts around them in the first half of the season that they've been trying to workshop. I thought the addition of DeAndre Hopkins has been understated. Since that made that trade in Week 8, Patrick Mahomes is top 5 when it comes to QBR, passing touchdowns, and he's number 1 in the National Football League in go-ahead passing touchdowns. So they're going to get better. Remember, they didn't have Rashee Rice early on in the season, no Hollywood Brown early on in the season, no Isaiah Pacheco early on in the season. They're going to start to get some of those pieces back. And so this is going to be a much different team in the second half as we move closer to the playoffs than the first half, and that's why the Kansas City Chiefs are still top dogs in the NFL for my money.
Yeah, and I'm not ringing the alarm, but to Mina's point, I don't sit here and look at the one-score games and say to myself, wow, this is so good for the Kansas City Chiefs. They're so lucky that they're in all of these one-score games because they're learning how to win. We're talking about a team. They already know how to win. They're battle-tested. battle tested. They've been through this already. There were never any questions or doubts that if it came down to the wire, would Patrick Mahomes be able to get this team over the hump? You're crazy if you thought that was still in question. Absolutely, they can do that. I look at all the one-score games, and I'm not going to say it's going to be indicative to what their playoffs are going to happen and they're going to fall short or anything like that. I just look at it as it's not a good thing. It is what it is, because the reasons they're in these one-score games are themselves. They're insufficient in certain areas. They've had drops on offense that have held them back. You look at defensively at their cornerback spot since Jalen Watson has been injured. There's been Johnson in there sometimes. Williams has been in there. They're trying to figure out who that other corner is going to be on the outside. Trent McDuffie now doesn't play in the slot, so Connor has to.
That's a problem.
That's a problem.
That's
you
a problem.
talk about both tackle positions. Those are the reasons. You see Mahomes get sacked at the end of that Raiders game, and you see the frustration before they move their left guard, who's an all-pro at left guard, to left tackle to try to hide that deficiency. So to me, I don't look at this as a good thing that, hey, we're just playing against really good football teams and it's coming down to one-score games or have to make the right play at the end in a 2-minute drill or anything like that, and we're finding ways to win. That, to me, would be positive for a team that wasn't tested, and you're like, all right, this is a good thing for them. They're learning how to win. They already know how to win.